Oh my gosh. So the last couple of days, I have been very, very tired. Now, I will admit I have a little bit of a um, I have a sleep issue, a sleep diagnosis that I'm not comfortable sharing at this time, but I have been experiencing, falling asleep in the middle of writing or in the middle of watching a movie, which I mean, it's not necessarily abnormal to fall asleep watching TV, but in the middle of journaling or writing, okay, in the middle of playing a video game, you're sitting upright, typically at a desk, nodding off. So this, with my sleep disorder, it's a sign that there's change. And whenever I have begun a workout dynamic or, a lot of the research that I've done or just my, general knowledge, just average person knowledge from exercising on and off throughout my life is that it can affect your circadian rhythm. And like a personal trainer has told me that. So that's not necessarily a medical professional, but it's someone who knows a lot about exercise. That's their job. That's their bread and butter. So that's a dynamic that's present. Now, neurologically, I feel in my body, even when I'm sleeping, that the right and left side are communicating more in synchrony, whereas they weren't before. And in my experience personally with, practicing yoga and going to courses and classes as well as with massage, one of the components that they taught us was that people hold emotions in their body. Being in the middle of a yoga class where we're really like we're doing the forward fold and we're just letting gravity, we're like sitting there for a long period of time and the hamstrings melt and suddenly someone's crying and they don't know why, but they're crying. That's just one example. These are phenomenon that science doesn't necessarily have like a complete explanation for, but it's a consistency. And it's an element that has been present. So I think a component of this sleepiness has been the processing of emotions that have been held in that muscle group, in that soft tissue, in that movement forward, the confidence, the flow that I've been moved like that in quite some time, guys. Like I was 15. This is like a couple decades ago. So my body is pulling up old files. It's pulling up old memories, old emotions. And I know that because when I first encountered it, I was like, why am I thinking about this weird like aspect of this that happened when I was in high school? Like I've healed this. I've processed this. I've already addressed this. So why am I thinking about it? And that is why I'm bringing it up here, because I know my process of working with these different challenges that I've encountered in my life. And I know, when you approach different thresholds in your life, you may reprocess things from your past a little differently. But either way, being where I'm at, I have my own process and I know how that works really well for me. I'm not going to say it works amazing for everybody else, but it works really, really well for me. And that's a mindfulness technique. Just practicing mindfulness. If it works, great. If it doesn't, try something else. There's many different ways that you can work with your brain and mindfulness to really be able to pull that in for yourself. Whether you're someone who, has ADHD or you're someone who doesn't, there are techniques of working with your mind where it is. And that's something I love about the yoga philosophy. It's about meeting your body where you are. It's about supporting you where you are to make change from where you are. It's not about judgment, about shaming, about, well, you should be here. No, it's about where you are. And I've been able to work through some of that in the last few days. And it's not really like a dissociation, like a separation. a distancing from the emotion. It's an acknowledgement that this emotion is something I'm experiencing. I know from where and when it is, but I'm not over identifying with it. I know why I'm experiencing it, but it doesn't need to be something that becomes a consistent, like, companion in a way. It's like, I've learned for me, just for example, that to have a negative emotion from that time in my life, say like a sadness, a feeling of loneliness, which I think most people can relate to from their time in high school. Regardless of how others saw you, you maybe had some of these feelings. So to allow that emotion to be fully heard, be like, yeah, I'm sad, I'm lonely, and yeah, I was sad, and I did feel lonely. I, like to really just acknowledge that emotion, allow it to be heard, like confirming it to yourself that you have fully understood what this emotion means and why it's there. That allows me to move past that. So it's like what you resist persists. This is not resisting it. This is going, okay, this is how I feel. So, all right, what's next? So you can move beyond that feeling to, oh, well, I understand why I'm feeling this. So I don't need to hold on to it. Okay, so if I'm having these feelings and these emotions come through, anyone will tell you, and even you have probably experienced this yourself, that when you're going through something that's emotional, it makes you tired. It does. I don't know about you guys, but the few times I've had a real good cry, I was like, it was nap time afterwards. I was a pumpkin. It was done. Like, I was no longer a carriage. I was a pumpkin. And that's like a Cinderella, like the magic of turning the pumpkin into a carriage. No, we're back to pumpkin status. It's nap time. So that's another layer added into the sleepiness. Physically, I feel that there's another component, which is the fascia. And the fascia has an energetic, neurological, emotional, like it's so, like there's so much we don't fully understand, but from an energetic, like Reiki master training, which I do have background, the fascia is so, it's so integral to how energy flows in your system. So I'm feeling a lot of those changes as well around the sacrum and the SI joint, the sacroiliac joint, and how even in between my ribs and how my neck is being held. And I had somebody once tell me, because I had cranial sacral work done, and she told me that the bones in my skull had adjusted to try to bring my eyes more level with how I walked unevenly. So the bones were not necessarily where they would naturally be. So I'm feeling even like shifts and changes in that, which is like little tingling. So there's a lot of change going on. So I think that's part of why I've been so sleepy. Now, the reason I really address the emotional side of it is if this is all new to you, that is somewhatly normal. Okay? It's somewhatly normal to be expected. It's not necessarily something that is really abnormal. But if you do feel you need additional support and or you feel like you want to talk to someone who is more educated, they have more knowledge available to them because they're like a teammate. You're like, okay, this is what I know is going on. How do I move from here to here? It's an empowering experience to own that you want to speak to someone who is well educated in how to get from point A to point B, and that would be a therapist. So, yet again, it's saying, I'm not the medical professional. I'm not. But if this is where you're at and you feel like it's a lot and it's overwhelming, and you would like to have someone who is very well educated to be there with you to kind of help you get from point A to point B because they have spent years of their life learning about the best ways to get from point A to point B. then that's an empowering thing to do. And if that's what you feel, then yeah, go for that. Like, I support you in advocating for your own health and happiness, definitely. So that emotional aspect I felt needed to be addressed because it does impact everything. It does.